Our story begins in a world where destiny often hides behind pain, where rejection becomes the doorway to greatness, and where God lifts ordinary people into extraordinary purpose. This is the story of two lives, one thrown into a pit, the other hidden in obscurity, both forgotten by men, but chosen by God. This is the story of Joseph and Esther in the land of Canaan, under wide skies and wandering flocks. There lived a young man named Joseph, the son of Jacob, the child of promise, the boy set apart. From the very beginning, there was something different about him. He walked with a quiet confidence. He spoke with unusual boldness, and in his eyes burned a future no one else could see. Joseph was loved deeply by his father, favored, cherished, protected, and that love was made visible. A coat unlike any other, woven with colors rich and radiant, a symbol not just of affection, but of distinction. But what his father gave him in love, his brothers received with resentment, because favor, when misunderstood, breeds jealousy. They watched him, whispered about him, measured him against themselves, and slowly, silently, love turned into bitterness. Then came the dreams, not ordinary dreams, but visions, vivid and undeniable. Joseph saw sheaves of grain bowing before his own. He saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing before him, and he spoke of them, not with arrogance, but with certainty. Yet to his brothers, those dreams sounded like pride. Will you rule over us? Will you reign over us? Every word he spoke pushed them further away. Every dream he shared deepened their hatred, until one day, hatred found its opportunity. The sun was high, the fields stretched far, and Joseph was sent by his father to check on his brothers. A simple assignment, a moment that would change everything. From a distance, they saw him coming, that coat unmistakable. And in that moment, something dark rose within them. Here comes the dreamer. Not brother, not family, just the dreamer. And dreams, to them, had become a threat. Let us destroy him. Let us see what becomes of his dreams. What started as jealousy now demanded action. When Joseph reached them, before he could even speak, they seized him. Hands that once played with him now dragged him. Voices that once laughed with him now shouted over him. They stripped him, tore away the very symbol of his father's love, and then they threw him into a pit, a dark, empty, silent pit. No water, no light, no way. Doubt, the kind of place where voices echo, where hope fades, where dreams are supposed to die. Joseph cried out, called their names, pleaded, but above him, there was no compassion, only cold silence. And then, the unthinkable. As he sat in that darkness, they sat above, eating, as if nothing had happened, as if he was nothing. Then came a caravan, travelers passing through, heading to Egypt, and suddenly, an idea. Why leave him to die when we can profit from him? So they pulled him out, not to rescue him, but to sell him. 20 pieces of silver. That was the price of a brother, of a dream, of a life. Joseph was handed over, bound, broken, abandoned, not as a son, not as a brother, but as a slave. And as the caravan moved, carrying him far from everything he had ever known, the distance between promise and reality grew wider. Behind him, his past. Ahead of him, the unknown. And yet, even there, God was with him. Egypt, a land of power, of wealth, of unfamiliar language and customs. Joseph arrived, not as a visitor, but as property. He was bought by Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, a man of authority. To the world, Joseph had fallen, from favored son to forgotten slave. But what the world could not see was that destiny had not left him, because when God is with you, even the lowest place becomes a platform. In Potiphar's house, Joseph served, not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with excellence, day after day, task after task. He worked faithfully, consistently, and something began to happen. Everything he touched prospered. The house flourished. Order replaced chaos. Increase followed his hands. It didn't go unnoticed. Potiphar saw it. He recognized something unusual, something beyond skill, beyond effort, the favor of God. And so Joseph was lifted, given responsibility, given authority, entrusted with everything, from slave to steward. Yet the greater the calling, the greater the test, because destiny is never handed over without being proven. Joseph had passed the test of pain, the test of rejection, the test of loss. But another test was coming, one that would not attack his strength, but his character. In the quiet spaces, behind closed doors, where no one else could see, temptation came, persistent, subtle, relentless. Potiphar's wife, her eyes, watching, her intentions clear. Day after day, she called to him. Come, a moment of secrecy, a chance to compromise. No witnesses, no consequences. It seemed, but Joseph knew, this was more than a moment. This was a decision, a line between purpose and destruction, because not every opportunity is from God, and not every door should be opened. Joseph stood there, faced with a choice, to give in, or to stand firm, to please the moment, or to protect his destiny. And in that defining moment, Joseph chose integrity, and for doing what was right, he was punished, falsely accused, his name stained, his integrity twisted into a lie. The same hands that once trusted him now turned against him, and just like that, Joseph fell again, not into a pit this time, but into a prison, cold, confined, forgotten, back into darkness, back into silence, back into waiting, the kind of waiting that tests everything you believe, the kind of silence where heaven seems quiet. Days turned into nights, nights into months, and months into years. No applause, no recognition, no explanation, just waiting. But even in prison, God was still with him, because God's presence is not limited by your location. Joseph remained faithful. He served, he helped, he lifted others, even while he was still down. And slowly, quietly, favor began to speak again. Even in chains, even in confinement, even in a place meant to break him. Joseph became a light among prisoners, among broken men, among forgotten stories. Then one day, two men arrived, officials from the palace, the king's cupbearer and the king's baker, both troubled, both carrying dreams they could not understand. And Joseph, the prisoner, became the interpreter, because your gift will make room for you. Even in the lowest places, he listened. He discerned. He spoke with clarity. One would be restored, the other would not. And it happened, exactly as he said. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph made one simple request: remember me. Just remember me. But when the door opened and freedom came for one, Joseph was forgotten. Again, not by enemies, but by someone he helped. And the silence returned, deeper, heavier, longer. 2 more years of waiting, of wondering, of holding on, until one night, the king of Egypt had a dream. Not an ordinary dream, but one that disturbed his spirit. Cows, thin and gaunt, devouring the healthy ones. Grain, withered, swallowing the full. A message hidden. A warning unknown. The greatest minds in Egypt failed to understand it. Magicians, advisors, wise men, none could interpret it. And then, a memory. The cupbearer spoke. I remember a forgotten man in a forgotten place who carried an uncommon gift. In a single moment, everything shifted. Chains were removed, doors were opened, and Joseph, the prisoner, stood before a king, cleaned, prepared, presented, but still the same man, not bitter, not broken, but ready. Pharaoh spoke, the dream was told, and the room fell silent. All eyes on Joseph. This was the moment where purpose meets preparation, and destiny speaks. Joseph listened, not just with ears, but with understanding given by God. And then he spoke, clear, confident, unwavering. 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. A warning and a plan. Not just interpretation, but wisdom. Not just insight, but solution. And in that moment, a prisoner became the answer. Pharaoh rose. Can we find such a man? One in whom is the Spirit of God. And just like that, in one divine encounter, Joseph was lifted from prison to palace, from shame to honor, from chains to authority, from forgotten to chosen. A ring was placed on his hand. Fine linen clothed his body. Authority was given to his voice. Second in command. Over all Egypt, the boy in the pit became the man in power. What was meant to destroy him had prepared him. What was meant to silence him had positioned him. Because when God writes your story, every setback serves a purpose. I feel like I'm talking to somebody watching this right now. What God cannot do does not exist. If He did it before, He will do it again in your life. The pit did not stop Joseph. The prison did not end him. And delay did not deny him. Your story is not over. Amen. Now, another story unfolds, not in a palace, not in chains, but in silence, in a place where destiny does not announce itself loudly, but grows quietly, hidden, unseen, unexpected. Our story continues in a world where destiny often hides in silence, where the greatest stories are not announced, but unfold slowly, quietly, beneath the surface, in a foreign land, far from everything familiar, far from influence, far from recognition. There lived a young girl. Her name was Esther. No crown, no title, no audience. just a life. That seemed ordinary, but ordinary is often where God begins. She was an orphan, a life marked by absence. No father to guide her, no mother to protect her. Just questions, just memories, just survival. And yet, even in her loss, she was not alone. She was raised by her cousin, Mordecai. A man who didn't just raise her. He guarded her. He saw something not in her status, but in her spirit. He understood something many people miss, that God does not choose people based on what the world sees. He chooses based on what heaven knows. So Esther grew, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. She learned to be patient, to be wise, to be still, because sometimes God trains you in private for what He will reveal in public. She lived hidden, unknown, unnoticed, but heaven was watching. Every step, every moment, every quiet decision. Nothing was wasted. And then everything changed in a single moment, in a single decision, in a single command from the palace. The course of her life shifted. The king called. A new queen was to be chosen, not knowing that heaven had already written the name. Esther. She was taken. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but by divine design. What looked sudden was actually prepared. What looked random was already written. She didn't chase the throne. The throne found her among many women. Voices louder, background stronger, connections deeper. Esther remained humble, quiet, steady. Because when God is lifting you, you don't have to compete. Favor will locate you. Doors began to open. People began to notice her. Not because she forced it, but because God placed it. Hearts turned. Conversations shifted. Opportunities aligned. And the girl who once had no voice now stood in the palace. The orphan became queen. But destiny never comes without opposition. Because when purpose rises, resistance follows. A man rose in power. A man driven by pride, blinded by control, consumed by hatred. He carried a plan, not against one person, but against a people, a plan of destruction, a plan of silence, a plan to erase, and suddenly, the crown on Esther's head became heavier, because now, it was not just a position, it was a responsibility. She faced a moment, the kind of moment that defines everything. Stay silent and protect yourself, or speak and risk everything. Fear whispered, "Stay quiet. You've already been through enough. Don't lose what you have." But destiny does not whisper, it calls. You were placed here for a reason. This is your moment. And something shifted inside her. The quiet girl found her voice. She said, "If I perish, I perish." Not out of fearlessness, but out of faith. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward. Despite it, she stepped forward, each step carrying weight, each breath carrying uncertainty. She walked into the presence of the king, where one wrong move could end everything. But heaven was already moving, and where fear expected rejection, favor responded. The king extended his hand, and in that moment, heaven interrupted history. What was hidden was revealed. What was planned for evil was exposed. What was meant to destroy collapsed, and everything changed. The enemy fell, the plan reversed, the people saved. Esther didn't just survive, she fulfilled purpose. She saved a nation. Now pause, look again. Joseph, thrown into a pit, sold, forgotten, imprisoned. Esther, hidden, unknown, tested, afraid. Two different paths, but the same pattern. Both were hidden, both were tested, both were broken, both were prepared, and they both were lifted, because what looks like delay is actually preparation. What looks like rejection is redirection, and what looks like nothing is the beginning of something great. The same God who stood with Joseph in the prison, who walked with Esther in silence, is still working right now in your life, in your waiting, in your confusion, in your hidden season. You may feel unseen, but you are not unnoticed. You may feel delayed, but you are not denied, because God does not forget. He prepares. So if this story touched your heart, if something inside you is saying, "This is my story too," then don't ignore that feeling. Stay with us, because there are more powerful stories, more life-changing truths, more moments that will remind you you are not alone. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to this channel, turn on the notification bell so you never miss what God is about to do next. Like this video so someone, somewhere, who feels forgotten can be reminded that their story is still being written. And tell us in the comments, which part spoke to you the most? Was it Joseph, who stayed faithful in the pit, or Esther, who found courage in silence? And if you believe that God is working on your story right now, type this in the comments. Lord, I trust your process, because remember, the same God who lifted Joseph, who favored Esther, is still writing stories today, and yours is not over. It's just beginning.